Pro GT is going to the Nürburgring Norschlife for week 9 of 25 season 3. So let's go right into a lap guide. Cross the start finish line, turn 1, braking at this break in the wall. Then be careful with the downshift. There's kind of some bumps there, it can unsettle the car. Turn in, you want to avoid the inside curb, and then get on the power, also avoid the exit curb. Then flat down the hill, flat around this right, then braking at the end of the graffiti on the road. Get as close as you can to the left curb without hitting it, and then same with the right. You want to use some of the camber that's on the inside and get on the power nice and early. Push the car out wide. You can cut over this left curb a bit and use some of the right curb. Braking just kind of when you get it straight from the left. And here you're braking again once you just get off the curb and straight. You want to use the camber again and try not to cut this curb as much. And try and avoid the exit curb as well, because you can bottom out on it. And then braking at the end of the graffiti, that'll be a common theme. And using the curb on the right, straightening the car out, getting on the power, then flat up to Flugplatz, which is also flat. Just be careful if you're turning and you're steering throughout the corner. Then flat all the way through here. Then it's just a small lift through this left to keep the car tight, and braking just before the end of this change in asphalt. And aiming for a later apex, trailing the brakes all the way in to get the rotation, then on the power early. Avoid the exit curb, and flat down the hill. You're braking at this white sign, cutting all the curb on the left, and braking at roughly the start of the graffiti. You can brake earlier, you can brake later. Keeping it tight to the curb on the right, straightening the car out, and braking again. You don't have to go all the way out to the right here. You don't really gain time from it. Then you're just letting the car go in, stay as close as you can to the left, straighten out, get on the gas a little bit, and then lift again, and avoid the inside curb, get on the power, avoid the exit curb for the most part, and then flat through here again, and a small lift, about a 70% lift through the left, braking at the end of this grate, and trying to get as close as you can to this curb without hitting it, right at that kind of, like that little bump there that you can see. That's where you want to aim to hit the apex. Then flat through here, again, avoid that curve. Braking at the second white sign, and missing the first apex, hitting the second, get on the power, flat through this left, straighten out for the right, then we're into miss hit miss, braking near the end of the grate a little earlier, then miss first, hit second, miss last. And here I like to brake where this bit of grass is a different color. If you find that hard to spot, you can maybe use one of these trees, maybe something else. And then on the brakes, just be careful to not lock off the fronts when you turn in over the crest and the bumps. Avoid the inside curb, and get on the power. Avoid this curb on the right. I didn't do that this lap. You can see I lost a bit of time here, got a little loose. Then flat here, keeping it to the right, braking roughly at the end of this curb, a little earlier. Then you don't have to focus on your exit too much here, just want to keep it off of this curb on the right and get it over to the left, braking at this white graffiti here, kind of the most white of the rest. Or I guess maybe you could use this sign. And you're aiming for a late apex, the car will understeer over the crest. And you don't want to touch that curb or the grass. It'll send you into a spin. Then flat through here, flat through the left. And braking at this warning sign. You want to find a good in-between of prioritizing exit and entry speed. Because both are important here. Then it's flat down the front straight, or whatever the straight would be. And then for the left at the top of the hill, you're lifting at the end of this concrete, you're downshifting to get some engine braking. And then you're back to flat, use the whole track. And then get over to the left to open up this next fast corner, it's flat as well. Then braking at the end of this graffiti here, or you can use this graffiti up here if you want to try and brake a little later. And aim for your apex right around this, just before this entry road. I understeered there, that was just driver error. And coming into the carousel, braking where the curb kind of shoots out. Entering still on the brakes, just a little bit. You don't want to be on it too much, you'll lock up. Using the brakes to keep the car rotating. Once you feel that it's rotated enough, get on the gas, maintain some gas. Just make sure it doesn't come out of the carousel. And then get it straight, exit out. And flat up through here, flat through the left. Then I like to brake at the start of this curb, you can definitely push it later. You might even be able to just lift and brake in the middle of this corner. You want to avoid this left curb. I hit it here. Again, driver mistake. Definitely avoid this right curb. If you hit that, it is not a good time. And try not to use too much of this exit curb. You can bottom out on it. It'll just make you go straight. Then braking. You want to brake and I kind of brake by feel here. Actually, you can use this graffiti. Then use the camber on the inside, get on the power early. Flat through the right. Braking at the end of this asphalt. Using the left curb, pitching it in to the right. You're just kind of maintaining your throttle to make sure you carry as much speed as possible. Then you're braking at the end of this graffiti and keeping it tight to the curb on the right. The corner just keeps going and there's a crest, so you understeer a bit. So the off track will approach very quickly. And then braking at the edge of this Volkswagen logo and just turning in, keeping it tight to the curb on the left. And we're braking right at this streak on the grass, or you can use just a distance from the end of the grate. Aim for a later apex, just a bit of maintenance throttle to get the car going. And braking at the end of the curb. Keep it tight to the curb on the right for as long as you can again. Avoid using this outside curb like I do here. It unsettles the car, can easily put you into a spin. I saved it here, thank God. I would think I would have went insane if I had to do another lap. And then we are braking in the compression here. And just turning in relatively early, yeah, kind of early. You can just let the car rotate, get on the power, use all the exit curb. Then down to the jump, not much of a jump in this car because of the downforce. Lifting over the crest and braking once you're in the compression. And then staying in 4th gear, full throttle again. Just keep it as tight as you can to the right through here. And then just a bit of a turning to the left. Avoid this inside curb and avoid the outside grabs. Then flat through the S's. Again, we have downforce, it's not much of an issue. Then we're braking at the end of this graffiti and trying to keep it to the right as much as you can. I honestly might have overslowed here and kept it too far to the right. Then braking roughly at the end of this graffiti, and you want to turn in much later than I did here. Definitely turned in too early. Had a huge amount of understeer. I went way too far over the curb. So if you take this right, you will be kind of on the throttle about here, and then you'll just have your right wheels on this curb, and you'll go up to 3rd gear. So then into the carousel, you'll be braking at the end of this graffiti. You'll go down into 2nd gear, and then let the car fall into the carousel, get on the power as soon as you are, pretty much about halfway through, and just let the car come out. Then here it's just a small brake and downshift before the turn-in. The maintenance throttle, and then you should be able to take this flat. Just a skill issue from me there, not taking it flat. And then all the way down the back straight into the last corners. Flat through the left, flat through the right. Then we're braking at the end of the curb. And we are trying to cut as much of this as we can. Going down into 1st, trying to aim to cut most of this curb on the right. I turned in a little too late. And then turning into the left, you want to keep it as tight as you can. And braking before you get to this pavement on the left. Or this break in the wall, actually, it's better reference. And then getting as close as you can to the wall on the right. And we're across the start finish line. So I will leave you to watch the uninterrupted onboard and chase camera, and I hope to see you on track.
You've got about 5 laps of fuel left.